right, Brandon. So we're talking about something pretty heavy today, right? This idea of Africa. For so many people, when that word comes up, it's immediately, it brings up images of poverty, conflict, foreign aid, that sort of thing. It's almost like it's been painted as this place that only needs help, a place of problems, not possibilities. And honestly, that's kind of been the narrative for decades, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. And that, my friend, is the biggest mistake of our time. It's completely off the mark. Africa isn't weak, it isn't poor, and it's certainly not behind. In fact, if you really look closely, Africa is actually the most underestimated power in the global economy today. It truly is. And once you see why, it's like you can't unsee it. It's a game changer, honestly.
Okay, that's a bold statement, Brandon. Most underestimated power. I'm intrigued. What's behind that? I mean, where's this power coming from, if not from the conventional narratives we've heard?
Well, let's start with raw natural wealth, right? Africa holds more natural wealth than any other continent on Earth. Think about it. Oil, gas, gold, diamonds, cobalt, lithium. These aren't just obscure minerals. These are the resources that power our phones, our electric cars, our factories, and like the entire future of artificial intelligence. Without Africa, the modern world as we know it it can't function. And yet, everyone is so distracted by, the big power struggles between America and China that this silent giant is totally rising right under their noses.
Wow, so it's foundational to so much of our tech-driven world. That's pretty significant. But you also mentioned a silent giant. What makes Africa a giant in the making beyond just the resources that are, often extracted rather than developed within the continent?
It's the people, Michael. It's absolutely the people. Think about it. By 2050, Africa will have the largest workforce in the world, bigger than China, bigger than India. More young people, more energy, more ambition than anywhere else on Earth. While Europe is aging, Japan is shrinking, America struggles with division, Africa is just growing. It's the youngest continent on the planet, with an average age under 20. Do you understand what that means for the future of labor, the future of markets, the future of innovation? It's all gonna come from Africa.
That demographic shift is undeniably powerful. But let's talk about something else that's often overlooked: geography. How does Africa's position on the global map contribute to this underestimated power status you're describing?
Oh, geography is huge. Africa isn't just rich in resources and youth, it's strategically placed. If you just look at the map for a second. Africa connects the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans. It's literally the bridge between Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The Suez Canal in Egypt alone carries 12% of global trade. East African ports are gateways to Asia, West African ports connect to Europe and the Americas. Africa is the crossroads of the future global economy. Whoever controls Africa's ports and trade routes controls the arteries of global commerce. It's pretty mind-blowing when you consider it, right?
So, if Africa has all these resources, this young workforce, and this incredible geography, why isn't it already the global leader? What's been holding it back? Or rather, what's changing now that's making this silent giant emerge?
The answer is simple, Michael, but it's hard to hear. For too long, others have exploited Africa instead of empowering it. Colonial powers stripped Africa of wealth, corporations extracted resources without building industries, politicians outside Africa used it as a pawn in their global games, and the world became comfortable thinking Africa would never rise. But here's the shift happening now. The game has changed. Africa is no longer waiting, and the world's biggest powers know it. That's why today there's a new silent competition, not in Europe, not in America, not even in Asia, but in Africa itself.
So, are you saying that the traditional powers are waking up to this opportunity, or is it new players driving this change? And how is Africa, with its historical challenges, actually innovating and building its own future right now?
It's a mix, but African ingenuity is definitely leading the way. Look at China. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, it's invested billions in African infrastructure, building railways in Kenya, ports in Djibouti, highways in Nigeria, energy projects in Ethiopia. These aren't acts of charity, these are investments for influence. China knows that by building Africa's roads, it builds Africa's loyalty. By controlling trade routes, it controls the flow of goods. And look at India. Indian companies are moving into Africa with pharmaceuticals, digital services, and tech. Why? Because they know Africa is the world's next big market.
That's quite a geopolitical shift. But what about the actual innovation happening on the ground? You mentioned Africa leapfrogging older systems. Can you give us some concrete examples of how they're doing that?
Absolutely. It's incredible. Take Kenya's M-Pesa, for example. It started as a mobile money transfer system because people had no banks, no access to financial institutions. That one innovation changed everything. Today, over 90% of Kenyans use mobile money, and M-Pesa has become a global model for fintech. While the West was busy building complicated banking systems, Africa leaped straight into digital finance. That is the power of leapfrogging. Africa doesn't need to copy the past. It can jump directly into the future. And it's not just Kenya. In Nigeria, young entrepreneurs are building fintech startups, raising billions in investment. In Rwanda, drones deliver medical supplies to rural villages faster than any traditional system. Across the continent, young people are solving problems that the rest of the world didn't even think about.
That's a fantastic point about leapfrogging. It really shows how necessity can drive incredible innovation. So you've touched on resources, youth, geography, global shifts, and now tech innovation. What else is powering this silent giant we should be paying attention to?
Well, we have to talk about urbanization, Michael. It's a huge factor. Today, cities like Lagos, Nairobi, Cairo, and Johannesburg are growing at explosive rates. New megacities are emerging across the continent. These cities aren't just population centers, they're becoming economic engines, innovation hubs, startup ecosystems. Lagos alone is home to a booming tech scene with unicorns like Flutterwave and Andala attracting global investors. These cities are messy, noisy, chaotic, but out of that chaos comes creativity. Just like Silicon Valley once grew out of a handful of startups and garages. This is not just growth, it is an explosion waiting to happen. The future factories of the world aren't in Shenzhen, they're in Lagos and Nairobi.
I can definitely see that parallel with Silicon Valley. The energy, the chaos, the innovation. It makes sense. So, with all these factors, what would you say is the most powerful, perhaps even the silent weapon Africa possesses that many still don't grasp?
The fifth silent weapon, and perhaps the most powerful, is resilience. Africa has faced wars, poverty, disease, and exploitation for centuries, yet it is still standing. And not only standing, it is moving forward. Resilience isn't built in comfort, it's built in struggle, and Africa has learned to innovate under pressure. When electricity is unreliable, Africans create solar startups. When banks are inaccessible, Africans create mobile money. When healthcare is limited, Africans use technology to reach the unreachable. This resilience is a mindset. It teaches the world a lesson. You don't need perfect conditions to create progress. You don't need wealth to innovate. You don't need luxury to dream big. You need creativity, you need hunger, you need persistence. Africa has all three.
That's a profound thought, Brandon. Resilience, born from struggle, driving innovation. So, for those of us listening who maybe are still clinging to the old image of Africa as dependent, what's your challenge to them? What's the biggest takeaway they need to internalize about Africa's place in the future?
Here's the truth, Michael. The same way the world dismissed China 20 years ago, the same way the world underestimated India's IT boom, it is now underestimating Africa. But silent weapons don't announce themselves. They strike when no one expects. And when they do, it's already too late to prepare. So I ask you, are you still blind to Africa's hidden power? or are you ready to see what most people cannot? Because those who see it now will be the ones who rise with it. The resources of tomorrow are African. The workforce of tomorrow is African. The cities of tomorrow are African. The innovations of tomorrow are African. You cannot stop this wave. You can only choose whether to ride it or be crushed by it.
That's a powerful call to action, Brandon. So it's not just about Africa changing, but about the rest of the world's perspective changing too. What should individuals, whether they're entrepreneurs, investors, or just curious citizens, be doing right now to embrace this monumental shift?
My advice is simple. Do not underestimate Africa. Do not make the mistake of laughing at it, because the laughter always ends when reality arrives. And when that day comes, those who dismissed Africa will regret it. Those who believed early will lead the new world. History has a strange way of repeating itself. The world always underestimates the quiet players. They underestimated America when it was young, struggling, and divided. They underestimated Japan when it was rebuilding from the ashes. They underestimated China when it was still poor, still opening its doors. And every time, those who laughed were silenced. Every time, those who were ignored were left behind. The world is shifting silently, and Africa is holding the pen. The resources of tomorrow are African. The workforce of tomorrow is African. The cities of tomorrow are African. The innovations of tomorrow are African. You cannot stop this wave. You can only choose whether to ride it or be crushed by it.
Brandon, that's an incredibly compelling vision you've painted. It's clear that Africa isn't just rising, it's redefining the global landscape. For anyone still processing all this, what's the one action or mindset shift you hope they take away from today's discussion?
It's simple, Michael. Stop seeing Africa through the lens of the past. See it for what it truly is, the future's undeniable engine. Invest your time, your capital, and your imagination there. Understand that growth, innovation, and opportunity are not just happening in Africa, but from Africa. Don't be a spectator to history. Be a participant in its making.
That's a powerful and practical challenge, Brandon. Thank you for shedding such a bright light on a continent so often misunderstood. Your insights today have truly been eye-opening, and I'm sure our listeners will carry them forward. There's an old African proverb that says, "The strength of the crocodile is in the water," highlighting that everyone is stronger in their own environment. Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see y'all later.